Wow, those are some crazy scenes there. The end of Italy, France, the U21 World Cup. Oh my gosh, I don't know what the referee was looking at there, guys. Let's take a look right now. I'm going to share the screen for our buddy here, Giuseppe Just Juve, and take a look at the pictures here. I mean, Gravina post 2-1 says they saw that, which unfortunately revealed an error, but nobody messed up. And that couldn't be more ridiculous. I mean, to say nessuno ha sbagliato, nobody messed up, is crazy. How you don't call that penalty kick there on an obvious handball. And what's the next one here? We've got at the end the cross from Parisi into, was it Bellanova, if I remember? Bellanova. And that, which in my opinion looks to definitely have crossed the line. The fact that you haven't given that, oh, France U21, exceptional, great team. And let's take a look also just at that starting lineup. I'm going to take off this share here. But this is a stacked team. But Italy just as well has a lot of talent and shouldn't feel like they are a second-class team by any chance here. Cornesecchi in goal has grown a lot now. He's playing Serie A for Cremonese, right? This past season. Ocoli Pirola, who comes out for Cancellieri, he's at Lazio now. Scalvini gets the start, who I think should be starting in the Azzurri right now, or at least in the rotation. And then Bellanova is part of the midfield with Rovella, who gets replaced by Miretti. Samuel Ricci was replaced by Colombo. And then Tonali and Udogie. Tonali, big man of the hour, right? 80 million euro move in the works to go to Newcastle, one which is going to double his wages. This is an insane storyline here. And to add to that, now I'm reading that what they could be doing in order to avoid financial fair play, Newcastle, is that with a related entity, they're going to look to have their sister clubs, or I should say related entity clubs, buy players and then loan them to Newcastle or whatever other team is trying to do this. This is a way around it. And that's how you can avoid financial fair play. And that's a really scary thing for football because it opens up a new chapter of going around skirting around the edges. And it's really unfair, I think, to the rest of world football, is that the fact of financial fair play, UEFA enacted this so clubs could rely on their own wages and be economically viable and sustainable. It's the word I'm looking for there. So this is completely the opposite of it. It's saying, no, we're fine with taking a loss, but we're going to get a way to get around these restrictions. And that's what's going on here. Guys, welcome. I'm Wayne Gerard. We've got a lot to cover today. Roma midweek update. That's the theme of this video. And we know that there has been the signing of Ndicka. Award had joined last week, and it took about a week for Ndicka's signature to become official. And thank you for joining me. If you want to join the WhatsApp group, by the way, you'll see it in the comments here. And if you can't access that for any reason, just let me know. So today, yes, Ndicka, Awar signed. We're going to go over the relationship with Hull City as well. Just gentleman's agreement, if you will. Petrachi, Roma's former sporting director, ordered to repay big bucks back to the club. Ola Solbakken scores a goal with Norway. El Shaarawy's reignition. He's training. He's getting back on his feet again. Nuno Santos, what he had to say on Instagram. Gianluca Mancini playing Flower Girl at Spinazzola's wedding. Radio thoughts around Rome, the Radio Pensieri. Davide Frattesi perhaps going to Milan following that sale of Tonali. France versus U21 Italy we're going to keep looking at. Who is Federico Baldanzi? Filippo Missori joining Sassuolo, perhaps with Volpato. Justin Kluivert and his deal to Bournemouth, as well as Paulo Dybala in his training regiment in the United States right now. So that's your quick read. It's your quick intro. And if you're like, okay, I got all my news just now, thanks. Leave a comment, a like, subscribe, and you're good. But we're going to go into depth about all that stuff now. Okay, so back towards this starting formation here. There's a couple players in particular who I think are exceptional. That being Udogie, who's going to Tottenham. Tottenham, guess who they just signed? Vicario, ex-target of Roma. I mean, perhaps a target, probably a target. One of the best keepers in Italy, part of that Empoli team that we love and who had such an impressive cast of players this season, such as Baldanzi, such as Parisi. And those guys are all destined for greatness, in my opinion. They're going to have great careers ahead of them. Rovella is okay. He's a good defensive midfielder. I think eventually he'll be phased out. He'll get replaced as they go into the what do you say, like the Azzurri, the official club or official starting lineup of the Azzurri, the men's team. That's the word I'm looking for, the men's team. Tonali, of course, who's, like I said, man of the hour, but he's going to be a mainstay in this Azzurri setup. I want to see if he becomes more of a central defensive midfielder, though, or if he continues to play as a mezzala, as a number 8. So I want to see how Tonali evolves as time goes on. Cambiaghi, not much there, but Gnonto, this is a player I love. I want to see where he ends up now that Leeds have been relegated. What's going to happen to one of Italy's most promising attackers, one of their most interesting, intriguing players? I read today that Juventus were looking at bringing in Weah on the right wing and perhaps selling Federico Chiesa to Liverpool. I don't I don't like that for Juventus. I think they should make Chiesa feel important. They should build more around him. Maybe they're not convinced with his form coming after the ACL injury. Maybe they think he's lost a step or two. But I'm thinking, why are they not trying to bring in Gnonto? Because with Weah, that's going to be a big sale for Lille. That's going to be at least 15 million euros. So I don't know why they wouldn't look at him instead, but their loss could be the rest of the league's gain with that, depending on where Gnonto ends up. Maybe over to Milan now, if they're going to be flush with cash, if they bring in Davide Frattesi and another player. And I like those deals, honestly, if you buy good. The issue is not selling high. The issue is, how do you replace those guys? Look, Tonali, good midfielder, decent, like probably up here, not up there, not world class, but a decent midfielder. And if you get 80 and you spend 40 on Frattesi and you spend, I don't know, 20 on Gnonto, and then you got 20 to the books, if you're trying to save money, like that's great business, in my opinion. And that's how these teams really have to think. Uh, okay, we've got Karim in here. We've got Young Dashi. And yes, I'm doing great, man. Nice to see you, and thanks for joining me today. Okay, so I'm just going to recap quickly off that. I think it deserves a second look. We've got a bunch of people in here now. And guys, don't forget to send this to your Romanisti pals, or if they like Italian football and they like just chatting about ball. Also, one thing I want to look at is Edin Dzeko's career following this picture that I'm going to show now. And once again, here it's man, just disappointing that the referee doesn't pick up on that. I really don't know how they got away with with that one there. I mean, his entire body's in the goal. The ball has clearly crossed the line, and nothing. Nothing. All right. Edin Dzeko today has joined Fenerbahce, right? Fenerbahce. And this ends an 8-year spell in Italy. And let's look at his stats. So, of course, with Roma, he comes over after winning the Premier League with Manchester City. And then last year, he was with Inter Milan and almost won the Champions League final. Probably if Dzeko had come off the bench, he wasn't going to miss the way that Lukaku did. So I think that Inzaghi messed up there. He messed up with who he should have started, which should have been Lukaku and Dzeko off the bench to be that extra muscle towards the end of the match. So what you've got here on the left is the games played. The next column here in the middle in black, that's goals scored. And to the right, that is assists. So we could see Dzeko comes over in the 15-16 season for Roma, and it's a slow start. 10 goals between Champions League and Serie A, 4 assists. It's decent. It's better than any striker in Roma had this season. We can say that for sure. But it's really all about the following campaign where things really take off for Edin Dzeko in Italy. Let's take a look at this. Serie A, the Coppa Italia, and the Europa League. 12 plus 37. Off the top of my head, that's 49. And in Serie A alone, he scores 29 goals. Massive. 2 goals in the Coppa Italia, and then 8 goals in the Europa League. That's a total of 37. That's a total of 39 goals. Tremendous. 16-17. I think that's when he became Roma's all-time single-season leading goal scorer. Pretty certain about that fact there. 17-18 season does excellent as well. That's 24 goals between the two competitions there. Coppa Italia doesn't play. I think that was an early exit for Roma. Following season starts to cool off just a little bit. With 9 plus 5, so 14 goals and 10 assists, actually. So we can see a bit of a change, much more of a layoff man going forward there. And then starts to cool off by 2021. You got 7 goals, In Serie A, 6 goals in the Europa League. It's good, actually. It's still strong, which is the funny thing. You think 13 goals and 5 assists. You're like, no, those are great figures. I wonder what he could have done under Mourinho. It's too bad, honestly, because as we could see, he still had a lot to give. Serie A this past, I should say this season before, 21-22, 13 goals in Serie A, so he still put up big numbers again, gets a few more goals, 4 goals to end the season with 17. And then this past season, 4 goals in the Champions League. Some of those were super important, and 9 goals in Serie A. So Dzeko's career has been legendary. This is a Serie A legend in the making, and there's nothing bad I could really say about Eddie. Maybe sometimes he didn't give that fitness that I would have liked to see, that pressing, but that wasn't his game. And you don't bring Edin Dzeko in to be a pressing forward. That's why you bring in the guy like Diego Belotti. Diego, why do I call him Diego? um, but to take anything away from him, I think wouldn't be fair. And to criticize Dzeko for at times the way that he approached Roma matches is not just disingenuous. I think it just takes away the fact that he wasn't ever going to be that type of player that Roma fans wanted. But ultimately, he is one that put major points on the board, and he's somebody who walks away, I think, with his head held high, and one who has cemented his place in not just Roma, but in those short seasons as somebody that Inter Milan fans probably loved just as well. All right, guys, keep those comments coming in. It's time to talk about some good news here, as we've got Evan Ndicka officially joining the club. Hope that's maybe some of you were here for that. And let's take a look at who the missing person was here. Mia Cataleya Ciclo Alvarez from Italy, last seen June 2023, little girl, and shows you the number that you can call, part of the missing campaign that was missing children campaign that was set up by Paul Rogers several years ago. At this point, shout out to Paul, who gave me my first opportunity by writing for the official website. So, all right. The club finally announces this, and let's see what Ndicka had to say on the back of his 5-year deal. And he's also going to be wearing the number 5 shirt. It says, the project that was illustrated to me, together with the history and prestige of this club, encouraged me to come to Rome, a fantastic city that loves and lives for football. I can't wait to take to the pitch at the Stadio Olimpico in front of my new fans and to be able to give my contribution to the achievement of our goals. And then Pinto spoke about it a little bit. He said, despite his young age, Evan has already gained important experience in one of the most prestigious leagues and with a European title achieved as a protagonist. He was a particularly sought-after player at international level, and we are very happy that he has chosen to wear the Roma shirt. So speaking about that, obviously not this past season, but the one before that, is when Frankfurt won the Europa League. And he, since his tenure in his five years, I think, in Germany, maybe a little bit less, but over that time, he has been the player who has been, the center back, who has been involved in the most goal-scoring actions in the Bundesliga. I think that was 10 goals plus 7 assists. And that's a tremendous number for a center back to be involved in that. I've got the official figure here. Let me go to my Twitter real quick, and I'm going to scroll down. So I'm going to share this. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. By the way, guys, if you have Twitter, you can check my profile out as well. Maybe that's how you met me. Maybe you came across me through being suggested on YouTube or Instagram, maybe something like that. Let me know how you actually did find about this channel in the first place. Okay, so here we go. So tied for the most goals in the Bundesliga from a central defender over the last 5 seasons, 10 goals and 7 assists. And like I wrote here, I do think that this is somebody who allows Mourinho a little bit more tactical flexibility. Maybe he plays in a back 4, which I'm assuming is how he's going to want to start out the 2023-24 campaign. Maybe he sticks with the 3. Either way, I think that Ndicka's technical ability allows him to play in multiple ways. And I think this is a guy who's going to work his way into the starting lineup. Like I said, 5-year deal, takes the number 5 as well. So this is good stuff from Ndicka. Moving on from Evan, we could see here that Mancini, Ola's wedding. Are we going to get copyright infringement for this? I don't think so. I can't imagine Mancini reporting me for showing this on YouTube. But anyway, yeah, look at that strut. Let's watch that one more time. Let's play it back. Look at this guy. Where's your tie, Mancini? guess he went a little informal. He can get away with that, I guess. Cool loafers. Looking good. Very pretty wedding. I should have invited Mancini to be my flower girl, but I had my nieces. They would have understood if I had Gianluca there instead. Anyway, thought that was pretty funny. Also, Cristante led Serie A in tackles this past season, 113. Second place was Bremer with almost 21 less tackles. So Cristante, that ever-present force, guy plays like every single game. He can't be stopped. Shout out Brian Cristante. I know he doesn't do the fancy stuff, but you gotta give that man his credit. I think Cristante is one of those unsung heroes of Italian football, not just Roma. Going on to Nuno Santos, the assistant coach of Roma, back to refereeing nonsense. And you can say hear what he's going at. And he's got his buddy, he's got our buddy there, Taylor, and how he says, "We are back." And you know that there's still something burning in this Roma that really wants to get back into the Europa League final and prove everybody wrong. Everyone who criticized this team, who went against Mourinho, and that this is the team that deserved to win that final. And I won't take any other answer to that. These guys were the best. And just looking back at these, it's pretty funny. Why did he post that one at the end? I don't know. But yeah, it's those emotions are still not over, and it's still very much felt. I'm gonna take a second to look at some comments here and see what's going on. We've got Germanicus checking in. Karim is here. Mohammed says, I would love to get him as a sub for Abraham, but life goes on, and Cristante is a machine. Yeah, for sure. All right, back to the good stuff. So we've got Ndicka, we've got Nuno Santos, the guy who Roma seems to continuously win when he's on the field. And here we've got the ruling for Petrachi. So Petrachi sued Roma based upon when he was fired, saying that he was owed this through his contractual or stipulations that he got 5 million euros. But it was just ruled by the judge that it's in fact Petrachi who has to pay Roma back. So maybe this goes against Roma's balance sheet. Maybe this goes against the 30 million budget that's supposed to satisfy financial fair play at this point. And speaking of that, we move on to our next story, which is Justin Kluivert, Bournemouth player. The medical is set for Friday. Okay, that's tomorrow. It's still Thursday in my time zone. It's what is it? It's 5:20 p.m. New York time. So tomorrow morning, and probably in less than half a day at this point. So it takes medical. That's 9.5 million pounds. Maybe that's going to be like 11 million euros, and hopefully those add-ons accumulate based upon objectives, like probably if they reach the Premier League next season, so something like that. I like it. So you figure 11 plus Tahirovic, that's 8.5, right? So that's 19.5. The deal is going to come in for Missori. That deal looks to be honest with you, I don't know what that figure is looking like. I want to read some latest reports. So what are we at? We're at 19.5 right now. Let's look this up real quick. Oh, my Google went to Missouri. No, not Missouri, the state. Missori. Filippo Missori. All right, let's try to get some news here. Transfer, nothing's coming up. Google's failing me. Well, to tell you what, the negotiations have been confirmed, and a deal. I can't get you a number right now, and I don't want to lie to you. I want to be, just giving you anything just for the sake of it. But anyway, we're at 19.5. Let's assume this is going to be at least 4 million euros. Then you're at around 23 million euros. You need 7 more million to satisfy the financial fair play issues. And I think with the players that we've been okay, so about 5. So let's say it's going to be 5 or 6 more million euros. If Pato goes to Sassuolo, which looks likely, then Roma are in a pretty good position. Who else is out there? Carles Perez. Maybe he satisfies that. Maybe that's why Roma are not taking a low value, because if they can get Perez off the books for 7.5, which is approximately what they value him at, maybe then they get a better leverage financial power when they go and ask for Volpato. Say, hey, brother, we don't got to sell him, which is what Sassuolo does every single season. If we look at Frattesi, back from Pellegrini, every single player does not go for a cheap value. Why? Because they have negotiation power, because these players are on big, long contracts, and they don't have to. They simply don't. And if Roma they don't have financial fair play restrictions. They're not in European competition. So if Roma can get to that point without selling any starting player, that is a round of applause for, Thiago Pinto. Almost said Petrachi there. All right. Jose Mourinho quits the UEFA Board of Directors, and this is, translated by Angelo Mangiante, and this is the letter that he said, that Mourinho said, and it goes from Mourinho to Boban, who's the vice president of UEFA. He says, "I'm thanking you for the invitation you extended to me to be a member of the UEFA Football Board. I regret to inform you that effective immediately, I will be renouncing to my participation in this group. The conditions which I so strongly believed in joined are no longer standing, and I felt the obligation to take this decision. I kindly ask that you also communicate my decision to the president, Mr. Alexander Seferin." And this is because Mourinho was just given a 4-match ban in European competition. We can take half of the group no, more than half the group stage rounds going into next season, where Santos will be the manager. So, I mean, following the, penalty against him, the criticism from all the referees all over UEFA not really sticking up for Mourinho, can we blame him? Absolutely not. Ridiculous. Ridiculous how they completely abandoned Mourinho when all of European football, all of world football knows that that final was truly sbagliato, really messed up, and that can't be forgiven. So, yeah, it's the right thing for him to step down because otherwise, what is this? It's a farce. Like, if you're not gonna stick up for when you know you've wronged, where is the character in that? Where is the integrity? Why be part of it then? Mourinho, Mourinho ha ragione. He's right in this. Okay. A couple of, comments here from Solbakken. He scored recently against, Cyprus, I believe, right? Following the match with Norway against Cyprus, and he was playing next to Erling Haaland, the best center forward in the world, and he said, he told me that my holidays were about to start, and he added that I had to smile, speaking with Haaland. He says, "We often talk, and this is his suggestions are precious to me. I've always known that to emerge, like to break through, you need to be physically fit. There are things you can't control and others where you can affect. In terms of my body care, I'm quite meticulous. It's not just an hour and a half on the training ground. I've become an athlete for the full 24 hours. I pay attention to my diet. Um, I got lost. To I pay attention to my diet, sleep, and everything that revolves around training. I'm very conscientious." And then on his partnership with Holland, he said, "He's one of the best players in the world, and he's very close to that level, that of the absolute top players. It's very easy to play with him. I try to adapt myself so that he can take advantage of his strength because they're absolutely outstanding. If there's room for Erling, for example, you just have to use it." And he says, "I know that without injuries, I can play at a high level. I have to be careful, and I always feel good." So Solbakken could be definitely one of those guys who has a great season going into 23, 24, and I think he could be. Like, this is what you wanna hear. This is what a professional says, that it's not just the hour and a half of training, but it's 24/7. It's a lifestyle, and when you are at a professional level, that's how you gotta be. All social media keeps pushing me, like, these motivational speeches and, like, Kobe Bryant talking and these mental trainers, and one thing that I came across today was a great quote, and it was like, "Everybody talks about balance, and you gotta be balanced, right? And life is all about a little bit here and making sure that everything is equal." But in reality, when it comes to being great at something and achieving something above the norm, it's not balance, it's obsession. That's how you get to the next chapter. That's how you make the step up, is by being an absolute villain, by somewhat giving up giving up parts that you might wanna do. Maybe you wanna go have a beer or 2 or a few more than that. Maybe you wanna go and hang out and see family or go to that party or go meet that girl, go meet that boy, right? But you gotta cut out certain things of your life if you wanna do something great, and I like seeing that a lot. I think it's absolutely true. If I wanna be a broadcaster, if you wanna be a mechanical engineer, right? There's gonna be nights where you're gonna have to stay up late, where you're gonna have to make sacrifices. That's not balance. Sacrifices is not balance. So that's what it takes, in my opinion, is to be absolutely berserk so you can get to that next level. And I really like seeing that. 30 more seconds. I'm not gonna talk more about non Roma related stuff, unless you like me to. But this past week, Tuesday, I played in this over 30 league, and I tried, like, my quintessential move. I play from my left foot to my right foot in the center of the field, and this dude must have been, like, in his mid-40s, and he was bigger, and he stopped me. He stripped the ball from me, and I was like, "Yo, no way." Took the ball from me, counterattacked, they almost scored off it. I was like, "Oh my gosh." You know that, like, feeling when somebody takes the ball off you and then they score? It's so embarrassing, right? And then I've been reflecting on that since today's Thursday for the past 2 days, and I'm like, "Maybe it's my approach. Maybe I'm not taking this as seriously as I need to." Like, yes, this is just a beer league. This is like an after work kind of like recreational. But you know what? If you wanna win it, then you gotta, like, take care of yourself ahead of the game. Make sure you get proper sleep. Make sure you got that nutrition. Make sure you're thinking about it. You're training. You're taking at least 30 minutes throughout the rest of the week. That's all, 30 minutes. Get some touches on the ball. So when it comes time to play, like, you're on it. And I think that's just accountability. So next Monday or Tuesday I play, I'm going for it, man. I gotta make sure I'm on my A game so I can't get embarrassed like that again. It was in front of, like, guys I didn't really know either, so I just met, so it was, like, twice as bad. Alright, some radio pensieri, some thoughts from the famous, popular newscasters around Rome. Let's take a look at those and see if I haven't read them yet, so if they're terrible, don't blame me. This is, let's start with Franco Meli from Radio Pomeriggio. He says, "What Mourinho did is indescribable. What the fans did at the airport is determined by his behavior. Pinto is doing very well and finally being judged on his skill." Yeah, because now people see that what Pinto has to do by getting this 30 million euros and having to negotiate for every cent is this monumental undertaking. Just a few days left, man. Lengua says, "Teller was a disgrace for Roma, and Mourinho didn't tell a lie. That of UEFA was a political ruling, and it can be seen from the decision to partially close the Olimpico. Whoever did things at the airport will pay, but Mourinho doesn't incite crowds. We await the official announcement of these transfers, but if they go through on June 30th, it must be said that Pinto has done an excellent job." There's no connection between Mourinho and the guy throwing a chair at the referee at the airport. That's a criminal act, completely separate. Mourinho did not say, "Guys, go to the airport." This is not a similarity. This is not Donald Trump at the Capitol building. I'm not gonna go into that, but this is not the same type of situation. Focolari, also from Radio Pomeriggio, says, "Taylor has made mistakes, but the reaction wasn't good. But what Mourinho did was not justifiable. We knew he would get a heavy penalty. He was doing a great job and has been greatly underrated." I agree with the last part there about Pinto. Vocalelli says, "Taylor damaged Roma, but Mourinho shouldn't have said those things. It was obvious that such a disqualification would come. I've never seen such a scene. Roma is the club which is moving better on the market." Trani from Centro Suono Sport says, Tela do Tokyo says, "Mourinho never asked to renew his contract, but only asked not to be alone. He wants someone like Boniek or Totti by his side. What happened yesterday is a shame, and there are some who say that Mourinho went well for him. The players are the Friedkin's last problem, and in Portugal, they haven't talked about the transfer market. Roma have 30% of Frattesi, but it's the club that are furthest from him." What he's saying here is not the clause. What he's saying is like Roma have a 30% chance. You can't give a chance on this. Either the team is in for him or they're not. It's not like, oh, there's a slight, if they roll the ball around and play Russian roulette, maybe Roma will get Frattesi. That's not, no, I think that's not a good comparison there by Trani. But what he does bring up is the point how Mourinho wants somebody close to him, like Boniek Cartotti, somebody who's going to talk to the media, who's going to approach it, because it's difficult for him to be the press officer, the manager, the father to these guys in the locker room. Not all those things are possible, and they need somebody to talk to the press and to get them off their backs. So Mourinho doesn't have to play that too. All right, here we go. Balzani, also from Tela do Tokyo. He says, "The Friedkins can intervene even without speaking. Mourinho would like a reaction. Yesterday, the Friedkins were in Portugal, but they will not have talked about the transfer market with Jose. The strategy Mourinho would like to is build a strong team." And then Austini, the infamous Alessandro Austini from Teleradio Stereo, says, "With the DQ of Mourinho, we wanted to give a political signal to Roma. Is it worth continuing with the protests, even if they are justified? All the fans feel persecuted, not just those of Roma. I think that you will never be able to control ref errors, and I don't think that if you protest, you will have fewer errors. If you ride this theme, however, You will always have the fans on your side because they want to hear this. Roma is not a team favored by the powers that be, both in the league and in the cups. He deserved to win something more starting from the Europa League. Mourinho is not used to coaching this type of team and has increased the level of competition, the level of competitiveness. He is uncomfortable because his reactions go around the world, and he doesn't seem to have too many scruples. I don't know what he means by that. Right now, the system is trying to fight it with the weapons that it has. Okay. Kelly says Mourinho went well, luxuriously. That to Taylor was not only an insult and an angry reaction, but there was premeditation. I would have been much happier. All right, Kelly, like chill, bro. Stefano Agresti. Mourinho's sentences to Taylor are sensationally heavy. The disqualification doesn't surprise me. On the contrary, it could have been worse for him. Popolari says Mourinho said were heavy things, and perhaps they also took into account what happened at the airport. Orsi says UEFA is not known to tolerate certain situations, and therefore it went down quite hard. It was obvious, almost a logical consequence happened after the final. Mourinho is paying for this type of utterance once again. And then Pruzzo, ex-player, ex-legend, says, what has UEFA done? They also punish the fans. The situation seems out of control to me. I hope I never see this referee again. Thank you, Roberto Pruzzo. The others just like throwing the manager under the bus. I don't know what's going on with these hosts. I'm going to call them out here. Orsi, Focolari, Agresti, Damascelli. Like, not cool, guys. What are you doing? Sabatini, not Walter Sabatini. Sandro Sabatini says Mourinho's sentences to Taylor in the stadium garage were ugly. An aggression of unprecedented gravity, like the mass of them. The disqualification, the attitude of Mourinho and his staff were unsustainable all year long. Bro, did you not watch a single match? What is this guy on about? Francesco Ferrazza. If Mourinho could speak today, he would probably say something worse to Taylor than what he did at the Puskas Arena. Gravina said that Juve is a brand that needs to be protected, while Roma are not. There are two weights and two measures. He spoke of a conspiracy, but it's a word he used. Roma are alone against everyone. They are not protected by the top management of Italian football. Thank you, Ferrazza. Thank you, bro. Let's read that again. Roma are alone against everyone. They are not protected by the top management of Italian football. Why don't they stick up for Roma? That's a question that has to be asked, and it's kind of obvious, right? Like, we know why. Because they're not Roma fans. They're not connected. They're not in the same connection to the rest of, the ownership. They're not a long-standing Italian family. They're not De Laurentiis. They haven't won the Scudetto. So the fact that none of these, I shouldn't say none. Austini kind of did. Roberto Pruzzo did. But the fact that none of these other Roma radio personalities stuck up for the team is just like, dude, they're on the radio talking about this, and I think completely disregarding one side of it and just kinda ganging up on Jose, and I don't like it. Maybe they're upset about the penalty imposed against him, but whatever. I don't agree with it. Okay, Karim says, "Who do you want us to sign in midfield if we're not getting Frattesi?" So, right now, Roma's got Cristante, Matic, Aouar, Pellegrini, who I think should drop back as a number 8, as a mezzala. I don't think that's gonna happen, though. So out of those 3, you've got your Pjanic playmaker type, the guy who can break the press with Aouar. You've got Cristante, and you've got Matic as your front 3, right? Am I forgetting anybody just off the top of my head? Bove. Yes, Bove. So I see Matic, Bove, and Cristante is interchangeable of those 3 as these defensive midfield guys. And Bove playing a bit more also Mezzala-ish, not a true defensive midfielder. Maybe someone who adds a little flair. Like, I wanna say Baldanzi, to slide him back into the middle would be my favorite guy here, but I don't know if he's someone who can play in a midfield 3. I haven't seen that yet. He seems to be much more comfortable in the final third. Instead, mm, what do you guys think? What do you think out there? I see a bunch of people in this chat right now. Who is that question? Why don't you go and answer Karim's question here? I really like, yeah, Sabitzer's good. I like Maxime Lopez from Sassuolo as well. I just don't think Roma's gonna continue to deal with that team. Again, after these deals for Volpato and Missori, and Berardi is now going to Lazio, it looks like. That is a great question. Um, hmm, I think, like, somebody who adds a little bit of creativity, a bit more balance offensively, and someone who could complement with Aouar. Maybe someone even if it's not Frattesi, I'll get back to you on that question. But, anyway, we covered a lot of ground today. I think one of the last things we're going to take a look at is this deal with Hull City. So, in the championship, Hull City, they're doing pretty good, and what this does here is that it's gonna open up the gates between information and probably loan deals between both clubs, and the sporting director I should say, I'm sorry, Hull's vice president said recently, I think yesterday, he said, "The championship is a league from which you can send players to the Premier League faster. We'd like to collaborate from the point of view of players, ideas, and philosophy. We did a theoretical handshake due to the relationship we have and the president of the two teams, who will meet in the future to finalize the deal. It will be mainly a football collaboration. We will consider their best players. They will tell us about their best. They have already considered some of ours to bring them to the first team. They have identified some of our players, whose names I won't mention, just as we did with theirs. But these negotiations are negotiations that just make sense because financial sustainability must also be taken into consideration. Roma players are expensive, and so we'll try to do something reasonable that doesn't lead them to lose money. No player will arrive before the start of the season. It's a longer term discourse and bringing someone in immediately. Our friendly in the summer, we've talked about it, but their preseason schedule is very busy because those days they'll be on tour. But we've talked about it, and we're their first option if it's possible. And we're very excited about that prospect. Why don't you come over to the States, guys? Come play a little friendly at Red Bull Stadium right by my house. Why not? Come on. Okay. So we've covered Petrachi, repaying Roma, the collaboration with Hull City, Solbakken's goal alongside Haaland. Stephan El Shaarawy, by the way, has been training. And before we get to that, I think we should also take a look at Dybala's Instagram and his joke from with Matic. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. Let's see if it'll allow me because I'm not plugged into my Instagram on this computer. Okay, this one's funny. You'll see the comment that Matic left. By the way, guys, or not, whatever. It's not allowing me. I'll find another way. Anyway, keep that comment coming in. Who is the ideal midfielder? And if not midfielder, who's the ideal player that you want Roma to sign for the rest of going into the transfer mercato, into the transfer season? Who is that guy? And think about what Roma's needs are. Is it a left wing, somebody who can be that starter, somebody who can interchange with Dybala, somebody who can cover Dybala, the center forward, one or two players if you want to throw in a couple, because Roma is most likely going to sign at least one, if not two, forwards in this season. I think that Morata is a deal which looks pretty likely. I think that Scamacca is more of a reach, but it could happen to him. If they do get rid of him, they want it to be something with an obligation to purchase. And I don't know if Roma are in that position where they can do that. So anyway, I'm gonna be able to pull that picture up on Instagram just because I'm logged out. And anyway, you can check it out. Anyway, it's Matic giving him a joke like, "You do all this training now in the off season. What about during the season?" Which I thought was pretty good. So, UK City of Poker 2017. How did that happen? I've never been out there. Giannis says, "I remain impressed by Pinto and the work he's done to make these 30 million without sacrificing starters. But do you think that we're still selling any Ibanez or somebody else to finance our transfers?" I think it was going to be Abraham. Now, without that money, with Ibanez, let's look at the entirety of the situation. Roma supposedly are trying to get Llorente back. With Ndicka and Llorente, you've got two left center backs. Ibanez, left center back. I think that's probably, if I was a betting man, I would bet that he's the most likely to be sold off. Yes. I don't think that it will be Zalewski. If this happens, I think that Roma would probably like to keep Zalewski for one more season, and if the plans are to sell him, that they wanna at least pump up that value a little bit more. And with Spinazzola is another player that we've looked at, high wages, has his injury troubles, 30 years old approximately, maybe 29. And with that wage, he's also got a little bit of a value to him. I would say his transfer fee is somewhere between 8 to 12 million euros. Maybe Spina gets one of these Saudi deals that triple his salary, and he's like, "I'm out." In that situation, there are several different players to look at, but to answer your question, I could see Ibanez be that guy. I could. Not saying he will be, but it kinda makes sense to me. At this point, Roma's half of their roster, which are competitive roster, are gonna be assembled on deals which are either free or low cost. Bring El Shaarawy back for relatively little. The center forward, he's gonna be loaned in. Morata, even if it's Morata or Scamacca, whoever that might be. Right wing, Dybala was a free transfer. Matic, free transfer. Pellegrini, they paid for him. It's your captain. You would hope that they paid for him. Um, and then Cristante comes over, but that's a long time ago now. That's like 5 years ago that Cristante came over from Atalanta, and Roma was in a different financial situation at that point. Left back, Spinazzola comes off transfer. Zalewski, Primavera product. Mancini, also Atalanta several years ago at this point. Right back, Karsdorp comes over. That was a Monchi buy. That was expensive, but Selic, 7 million euros. So this low budget Roma, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see that 20-25 million plus euro player being signed for the club. I get the impression that there's gonna be a continuation of these shrewd free transfers, long-term contracts where the player's like, "All right, well, coming on a free, you're not paying for me, at least give me some financial security." I see this continuing to be a theme, but as we've looked around and we see this name team popping up, if Roma doesn't get him and Milan uses that Tonali money really quickly, can you loan in De Paul? That would be really nice. Rodrigo De Paul, McAllister's gone. He went to Liverpool. A couple other players, maybe Pereira from Udinese, I find to be interesting. He's a kind of a player who can do a little bit of everything, and I think that he kinda gets overlooked because of that, but he's a certain player that you would definitely want in your team, the player from Udinese. He's a Serie A, not legend, a veteran, Serie A vet, that's the word I'm looking for here. Okay, I've got the Twitter, I don't have to explain it to you, I've got the Instagram pic up here. It's like I'm explaining a joke, it's pretty lame, but let's take a look at that. Keep the comments coming in, guys. Throw in some likes there for me. If you're new to the channel, also, please consider subscribing. I would love that. I would really love a nice little subscription. We're at 888, by the way. I just checked before I came on. I hadn't checked for a few weeks, and that's incredible. I hope to be at 1,000 subscriptions by the end of the summer. So that would be some sweet stuff there. Let's take a look at this. I got this pulled up. Ah, they, yeah, I can't upload the Instagram pic. I think it's I'm not subscribed to Instagram. I'm not in it, logged in on my computer. Anyway, you'll just have to see it for yourself. But he wrote, "I already miss you." Dybala was the title to that post. You'll see him training. There you go. Out in where was he? Miami? I think he was in Miami. Uh, winning Lionel Messi, who apparently a few other players go to that team too. So that's gonna be pretty interesting. Tickets are starting at $350 if you wanna go see Miami play now. I was looking a few days ago at the Red Bull game, 350. Yeah, crazy. Of course, that's secondhand, but I think it's probably at least 400 now. Joanna says, "I think we are going to switch between a 4-2-3-1 and a 3-4-2-1. We need a left back, a left wing back, a left wing, and a center forward, maybe a Dybala backup." So when they mentioned that name, Baldanzi, this is a player who I love, and he's 5'7", like 5'8", same size as me. It's got that, like, affection for him. Excellent on the ball, always wants to get it, wants to make something happen, wants to overload spaces and combine, making triangles, simple passing, like, creativity does not have to be that you're this Mozart on the pitch, that you're like Rui Costa, but just somebody who's able to move into pockets of space, get the ball, receive it, beat their man, and play a simple pass. That's an element of creativity, and that's what I love about Baldanzi. It's one player I'd really like to see, go to Roma this season. So, other than that, I don't think that we're gonna see a lot of players linked to Roma until after July 1st, and then hopefully a couple things pick up. But Ndicka and Aouar is a fantastic start. The reloan or permanent signing of, Llorente, maybe Viña gets involved in that deal, I think would be excellent, especially since Roma have 2 left backs with Zalewski and Spinazzola already. Viña becomes kind of repetitive in that sense. Justin Kluivert should be done tomorrow, if not the day after official, and Volpato, I don't think that deal is concluded yet, or it seems like there's still a bit to be worked out. Missori deal is coming to a close. Carles Perez should hopefully join Celta Vigo by the end of the week. I know that Roma are being a little bit tough on their price, which is good. You don't want to just bend over for Celta Vigo, like just give in. Um, and Roma, they're trying to take advantage of that situation. So, guys, let me know what you think. Anything else you want to talk about before we sign off? Anything that I'm forgetting? Write in a comment as well. And by the way, yes, probably now it looks like he might be out too. Serie getting rated by the EPL teams this this mercato, and it shows you that there's like this, hierarchy that if they get double wages, players are going to go. So, okay, Aspilicueta, I'm reading right now from Gianluca Di Marzio. Inter Milan is looking to try possibly bring him in, and Newcastle also jumping in for Fiesta and Theo Hernandez. Imagine if you're Tejo. If you're Theo Hernandez, you're gonna take that. I'm telling you, man, because you're seeing what's happening to your club, and it's probably not gonna get that much better. They just lost out again in Serie A. They didn't have a good well, they had a decent campaign. They almost got to the Champions League final. Um, but I think that cycle is ending. So I could see Deo and a few other players, maybe Chiesa, join that Newcastle. Declan Rice maybe going to Manchester City as if they needed him. Well, I guess because Gundogan just joined Barcelona. Maybe that's their thinking there, that they needed a little bit more and ship players around like that. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. Once again, just if you're new to the channel, leave a subscription and let me know what you thought about today's episode. So, Fael, hey man, nice to see you in there. Okay, who do you think should be the next guest on our channel? Let me know that right now. Put in a comment. Since Vicario is joining for Spurs, couple interesting players are still out there, Matt. I think Carnesecchi, we saw today for the U21 World Cup against France. And there's guys. Colini is an interesting name. Atalanta keeper. Colini, I should say, not Colini. And I think he's there, right? Or did he go to where did Golini go? I'm gonna double check. Yeah, he's still at Napoli. I'm sorry, at Atalanta, on loan from Atalanta and at Napoli. He was their number 1? No, Meret was. So he's playing a number 2. So maybe Golini, like, as a backup guy right now. I think that Spillard is probably he hasn't been shown enough to say that he could be like a number 1. So you never know with Thiago Pinto. He tends to get players that aren't being watched and that haven't made the headlines. We'll see what happens in that space. I don't know if I would say 49% of me says that Rui Patricio is the starting keeper for Roma heading into the first match day of the season. So I do think it will be somebody else. Um, but yeah, so going for guests, who should be the next guest on our show? I want to shake things up. Who should be next guest? Here we go. Let's get that in there. I've got a couple people. We've got a former Roma Academy product coming on soon. That's Gennaro Nigro, who actually grew up pretty close to me, and he's now with Salt Lake City Monarchs. And I'll post on Twitter, I think, some questions for him, or maybe a post on YouTube. Any questions that you want asked going into that? I've got a story coming up about um, Carmelo Imbriani, and I'm going to post this story here when it's done. But if you don't remember who Carmelo Imbriani was, he was a former player for Napoli. He wore the 10 after Maradona. And then 10 years ago, he passed away. And I met his brother and got the entire story. There's Carmelo Imbriani, if you want to know a little bit more about him. But I've got a story upcoming about how I went to see his brother's presentation, and his brother has now traveled over 300,000 kilometers, which is like a million times around the world. And that video will be coming out soon. It says Richard Whittle or Paul Rogers. I think that could happen. I could probably get Richard, I think, and I'll ask Paul, see what he's feeling if he wants to come on and chat. So, all right, guys, let's talk soon. Let me know too if you're watching this in a recorded session. Who should be the next guest? I think those are great shouts: Richard Whittle, Paul Rogers, and talk about Paul's tenure at Roma and everything he came up against. So I think that a lot of things will be moving quickly. We'll keep videos. I'm gonna try to do a video per day, whether it's a short or, a smaller recorded video or a live stream. So, let's talk soon. Thanks, guys. Ciao.